Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Mr. Hino with Mr. Hino's LEGO Robotics. Well, yesterday was the first day of school and our first day of class where we're online with virtual sessions. So I thought I'd give you a look into what my first lesson was for robotics. If you want to see that, stay with me. And after watching this video, if you like what you see, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right there. Come on, I know you can do it. So I make it my policy on the first week of school to not really dive deep into robotics. It's mostly about just getting to know the students, having them be comfortable with what the system is that you're using. So I basically wanted to cover, how things were going to be handled virtually online, what to expect, what, some of the guidelines are. So what I plan to do right now is just show you basically my presentation on what I showed to my students, just to get the virtual online ball rolling and just to see, how much knowledge they have about being online and getting them to try out different things like the chat and using their mic to speak up for things. And then just letting them know, hopefully, where we plan to take this all, this virtual online learning. So let's go ahead and go to my presentation. Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and take a look at the Google Slides presentation I made for my robotics students. As soon as they hop onto the Google Meet, I just have all the information so they know that they are in the right class, they have the right teacher, and let's go ahead and go through this presentation. The first thing I'm going to do is just tell them to relax, and we're going to learn this together. Obviously, we've never done this before. A lot of my students, before summer came and the schools closed down, they were doing a lot of Google Meets and learning, but it just didn't have the same feel as the beginning of the school year. So I'm just going to assure them that we're all going to be learning this together. If we make mistakes, we're just going to learn from it and fix it and move on. So it's just a calming, reassuring tone to start the first day. So what I want to do is kind of lay down some guidelines so that the students are aware and there's no confusion. Because what I'm finding out is it might be different from teacher to teacher, what some expectations are. So I just want them to know for my class what they should expect. So I'm just going to have them check their schedule to make sure that they are on time to the session. It's kind of like regular class where you just don't want to see folks, coming in late. Obviously, we're going to show some grace, and if there's some technology issues, if there's family issues, but we're just going to have them do their best to be on time. We're going to have them have their camera on just so I can see their faces. I know that they're engaged, and their microphone is going to be off just so that we don't hear any background noises. We don't hear any, having any conversations with other students. And obviously, if there's going to be some question and answer, or if I need some response, I'll ask them to turn their mic on. And then I want them to have their Google Classroom tab open, because what I want them to be able to do is to flip-flop between our Google Meet and being able to open up an assignment that I'll show you in a second. Okay, so during the Google Meet session, I want them to be on task like it's a real class session. I want them to be ready to turn on their mic for a response, and I want them to be ready to go to a Google Classroom for their assignment. So it's just one of those things where I want them just to know that this virtual online class is just going to be like a regular in-class class, where they're just on task as best they can and just ready to move to the next activity as best we can. Okay, so this is pretty huge as far as how students can communicate with me. If their question can wait, like it always is in a regular class setting, I'd want them to wait. Maybe ask me at the end of the period or just type it into a chat. But if the question needs attention, I want them to click on the raise hand icon right here. I want them to, be called on. I would say, okay, Johnny, what's your question? And have them be ready to turn on their mic. Or they can, if they're shy, if they just don't want to say it out loud, they can type their question out in the chat feature. Okay, so let's go over these two words, and I definitely want my students to memorize this, at least, if not, how to spell it, at least knowing what the difference between the two is and being able to flip-flop between both really quick. Synchronous means that we're all engaged in learning at the same time. Like if I was to say, okay, everybody, let's go ahead and learn about color sensors. Everybody needs to be in on it. They all need to be attentive. They all need to be looking at the same thing that we're all looking at. Be all ready to discuss, be ready to answer questions, all as a class. Asynchronous means that they might be working on an assignment at their own pace. For an example, I might say, okay, everybody, for the next 5-10 minutes, we're going to answer 2 questions about what we talked about. So they might all go to a Google Classroom doc and answer questions there. So they can be doing things on their own, and they don't necessarily all need to be in that class session. So what they need to be able to do is to flip-flop between these two very fluidly. So, after those 5 or 10 minutes, a timer goes off and they all come back to the synchronous class if they were doing something asynchronous. So, if Mr. Hino gives you an asynchronous assignment and then calls the class back to synchronous, be ready to switch back quickly. So here's a picture of a boy working on something by himself, and then if I say, okay, everybody, we're going to come back to synchronous, then everybody should be able to hop back on and put aside whatever the project was they were looking at. So there is my graphic of being able to go from the asynchronous to synchronous. Okay, at the end of the Google Meet session, I want them to be able to exit the session promptly. I want to be the last one in the session, so I just know that there's nobody in there hanging around and doing something that I don't know or unaware of because I'm not there. And then we have in our schedule, in our daily schedule, after lunch on certain days, we have a student support time where they can be doing assignments that maybe they didn't finish, or they can use that time to ask me questions if they have any. And then I want them to have some expectations of me. So I want them to know that I'm going to make these sessions as engaging as possible, just because with robotics and it being very hands-on, I just need to make sure that they're attentive, but we're moving at such a pace where they don't get bored super easy. They just should know I'm not going to sit there and talk for an hour and 5 minutes, but we're going to just flip-flop through different things where they might be doing something asynchronous on their own, coming back, us doing some kind of activity, and then just jumping quickly through things so they're always on the move. If they type in a question in the chats, that I'm going to go through those questions and answer it for them either during the session or after. And then I'm going to make directions as clear as possible, and if they have any messages that they send me, I'm going to answer them very promptly. And then on the first day, we're going to practice. I'm going to have them practice turning on their mic, raising their hand icon, having me call them, and so they turn on their mic and they can ask a question. I'm going to have them practice a chat feature where they can ask me a question in the chat bar to the right. I might even ask them a question and they can type their answers into the chat, just so that everybody gets used to, using the chat and using their mic or turning on their mic to ask a question. And then I'm going to have them practice switching from asynchronous to synchronous. So I'm going to show you in a second my first day of school doc that I have for my Robotics 1 and my Robotics 2 students. They're going to actually be starting this when I take attendance as soon as everybody is in the Google Meet session. And then after those 15 minutes are up, my phone is going to go off the alarm, and then I'm going to have everybody come back to the synchronous class meeting. And then as we're ready to wrap up our class session, I'm going to just have them prepare some things. I'm going to have them be prepared to know when our next meeting will be. I'm going to remind them when the session's over to leave promptly. I'm going to let them know that today, when, after our session's over, that they can use their student support time to finish this first day of virtual class assignment. I'm going to let them know when that assignment is due, and then I'm going to prepare them for their next class here at the bottom. Okay, so here's a copy that I'm leaving you in the description. So if you check the description, I've left a link for this Google Doc. This is what I'm going to have the students work on as soon as I see that most of the students are in the class session. I'm just going to give myself a time limit and say, okay, after 5 minutes, I'm just going to have this Google Doc scheduled for them, to show up in their Google Classroom. So I'm going to get to know my Robotics 1 students. So let's quickly go through these questions, and then, like I said, you can fix whatever you want, change whatever you want. Number one, I want to know why they signed up for this robotics class. I just want to get some background on and see how excited the student is, and I definitely want them to let me know if they didn't request to be in this class. Number two, I just want to find out about the student. So I'm having them make a list of 5 things that they enjoy doing. Example, reading. Number 3, in one sentence, describe why learning online is either good, bad, or both. So I'm going to have them choose one. Number 4, I want them to describe one difficulty they might have for virtual online classes. So I just want to be prepared if there's an issue. I definitely want to know about it right away. Question 5. When you go into a store like Walmart or Target, what section is your favorite, and explain why? So that again kind of helps me dive into a little bit more information about the student. Number 6, have some fun with this one. Copy and paste a picture of one of your answers from your number 2 question above. So for all of these 5 things that they enjoy, I want them to copy and paste a picture of one of those items right there for number 6. And then number 7, lastly, tell me one thing about your summer that was amazing, bad, or memorable. So I definitely want to give them a chance, even though maybe some of them didn't get a chance to go anywhere because of COVID. They can at least tell me a story there. And then lastly, this would be a nice thing for them to put in their chat. Do they have any questions about Mr. Hino, the class, or anything regarding the schedule or this week? So, first week is always crazy with scheduling and knowing where your classes are. But since we're on the computer, they might have other questions like that. That I can have them practice when we have that time where they can either turn their mic on and ask a question or to type a question in the chat feature. So this is something that the students will, this will be a Google Doc that they will open up, and they'll just type their answers in, and I actually had them highlight their answers because it's so hard for me to see when you have text like this and they type right on top of it. So I'm having them highlight their answers in yellow. So one more time, you can find a copy of this doc in the description. And to end our class session, a lot of the students are brand new to robotics. So they were asking, so if we do intend to return to the classroom, what will our robotics class look like? So I had to show some type of robotics today. So I basically showed the students this little video compilation of some projects that we've done in our class. So check this out. expecting. Okay, guys, so that's what I think is the key for, robotics online, is just to chunk things up and just to kind of keep things rolling, because nobody is going to listen to me for an hour and 5 minutes just ramble on and on. Students just want to see things with a flow, and that's what you have to do, is just kind of get them used to the flow of, hey, everybody, we're here for synchronous time. Hey, everybody jump on something else for asynchronous time. Okay, everybody come back. So, it's kind of has that, middle school, elementary school feel, where they're just going from one class to another. But in this case here, they're just jumping from one station to another. So like in my robotics class, they might be doing something at their seat. They might jump on their robot, finish something and then do some type of evaluation. So there's always just a nice flow with the period. So hopefully you were able to get some kind of glimpse into what my first day looked like. So those of you that want to, you can check out the description where I've left a link to this presentation. I've left a link to the questionnaire that I gave my students on the first day, just so you can see, what everything looks like. Feel free to take what you want, change what you want. It's just one of those things where one size does not fit all. If you want to rearrange stuff or delete stuff, that's going to be up to you. Okay, guys, so hopefully you guys, whenever you start, have a great first day, first week, just beginning of the school year, and hopefully we can get back into the classroom real soon. Okay, guys, I am Mr. Hino from Mr. Zega Robotics. I'm out.
He's out.
He's out.
We got this.
We got this.
We got this, guys.
Hey guys, Mr. Hino here. Thank you so much for watching. And if you love robotics, don't forget to check out these videos also, because they're cool. Okay guys, take care.